I couldn't even imagine a life without alcohol.
Yeah.
And I used to have so many internal dialogues like, I'm going to drink less. I'm going to only have 2 drinks. And I remember you and I would have these conversations
Yeah.
for years. I would tell you, I'd make these like
Mhm.
proclamations.
Declarations.
Speaking,
Uh-huh.
yeah, proclamations, declamation, like all of it. Like, I'm going to do this from now on, and I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to do this. And it just reached a point. I was like, am I an alcoholic? Like, I don't know. But, we had always like grown up around functioning alcoholics. Like, it's very normal and it was just part of our life. And again, it's fine if that's what you want to do. Like, that's for you. But for me, it was horrible because I was using busyness, friendships, and alcohol to escape everything. Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
Today we are talking about my journey with alcohol. And the key to my alcohol, I'll say, is, Suzanne knows this, is it was my distraction and my escapism. So I will put a quick trigger warning in here. There are people who are truly addicted to alcohol, and that was not, in my case, what turned out to be. So I just want to say this isn't for everybody, but I did want to tell my story about alcohol because it really has both shaped and changed my life. So about 3.5 years ago, almost 3 years in July. 3 years in July.
Will it be that long?
Which is crazy.
Wow.
I know. I have not been sober, but I have completely changed my relationship with alcohol. And what I want to do is kind of go back in time. So I started drinking in high school. High school friends listening, you know this. And it was on the weekends. But I actually started drinking my freshman year, which is crazy to me because my daughter just finished her freshman year. And I've been pretty open with her about it. But it's crazy because I would say my husband's was super wild as a kid and did things that are like, there was like law involved. But he till this day is like, I can't believe you drank your freshman year. But like, when did you start drinking?
I think maybe freshman or sophomore year, like at a football game, or I don't know, something like that. Maybe
someone brought something, or you're like,
trying to be cool. I'm sure back,
of course, yes. And then I drank more considerably, like in your later years in high school, because we'd have our parties and all of that. And I would say I was getting drunk, got high too. Did that too. But those were the two. Yeah. Not that they're the good ones, but those were the two. And then I went to college and I continued on drinking. And, then you get into young adulthood. And then now you've got like a little bit of money and you think you're sophisticated and you're going to restaurants. And now you're drinking at restaurants and, that. And then you're doing the club thing. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, I guess we're going to slow down. Well, for me, I did not slow down.
Well, let me just say, I'm not sure a lot of people think that they're going to slow down at this point. I think when we were at that stage, like wine and stuff wasn't like so big. Like the mommy wine culture, I feel like has really grown with our generation of people. Like 100%. I remember like our parents drank like casually or have like, cocktails or whatever, but like,
they weren't drinking wine.
Yeah, like, nothing like that. Yeah,
at a fancy restaurant, maybe.
Yeah, but I feel like now it's much more like normal for people to drink or for moms to drink. I think at least like, it takes me back to like the Mad Men type episodes or something.
Yes.
Where, they have like their drinks and then the assistants come in, but they're not the ones drinking. I feel like maybe similarly for moms now, it's like now that's more normal to have like wine.
I think mommy wine culture is perfect there because it was like we were just starting to get into wine and I had my kids late. I didn't have my daughter till I was 35, which was called advanced maternal age. And just let me tell you, I thought that was bad. I'm getting off course here, but just feel the need to share that I had my son at 39 and they told me I had a geriatric pregnancy. And that is when I was like, I am not here for this. This is complete BS. You can't say these things to me.
It's a male-generated term because what woman would say to another woman having a baby that you're geriatric at that point? Like
geriatric pregnancy.
It is just.
Sorry. Yeah, I digress. But Suzanne knows how strongly I feel about those terms, and obviously I still care about them because they just came up in a totally unrelated
And I'm
story. But
still as
anyways,
offended for you and anyone else out there that is listening. So if we could
thank
find
you. It was
another
very
term, people.
geriatric pregnancy. Anywho,
Moving on.
so I thought that I would like drink less, right? To your point, it was like, I'd have like a beer or whatever, but then mommy wine culture came in hot. And then we were just drinking wine. And then, of course, I surrounded myself with other families that had, like, this is things I can see looking back, right? I wanted to be around other families that liked to drink, right? So then we were all drinking together with the kids. I mean, obviously not the kids, but,
It was a
and
group
then the kids.
activity you could do as a
Yes.
family, like similar to like having a barbecue. You're having a barbecue. It's a
It's a play date,
socializing.
but we're
Yes.
also having wine, right? And
Yes.
it's a play date, but or we're doing a family barbecue, but like all the parents are drinking and whatever. Be that as it may. What I realized was it was my escapism. And what I mean by that, or my distraction, is I had a lot of stuff that I chose not to deal with, and a very acceptable social way to deal with that and not want to feel things or have things come up because I wanted to relax. I knew I needed to
Yeah.
relax, right? It's Friday, you want to relax. It's Saturday, we want to like go do something fun with the kids. But I didn't want to be alone with my feelings.
Yeah.
I look back and see now. I wanted to relax, but what I called relaxing was hanging out with my friends or family friends, like with the families together or whatever, whether it be with the girls or my husband or couples or the whole family.
Yeah.
My idea of relaxing was we're relaxing, but we're also drinking. And then the drinking just kept getting more and more because the older you get, the more stuff keeps coming up. So, what
Well,
were you
and
going
I
to say?
think there's also a difference, and I just would put this caveat in of having a drink to
Yes.
relax
Mm-hmm.
versus getting drunk to relax, because those
Mm-hmm.
are two different things.
Uh-huh.
So just as a quick
Yes.
caveat in there,
Yes.
or having a couple drinks versus getting drunk or getting so wasted you don't
Yeah.
even remember what happened the prior day. Like,
Yes. Yes. And
not
so
speaking from experience or anything. Hear my
So
sarcasm.
as I'm like wiping the sweat off myself as I'm exposing myself here. Yes. So I didn't have a one drink. I was never a one drink person.
Yeah.
Like for as long as I can remember, it was like if I wasn't drinking, and I'm using air quotes, if I wasn't drinking, then that was because I was going to have 2 or 3 glasses of wine
Yeah.
or, 4 beers or whatever. Like that was me not drinking.
Yeah.
And then there was like, oh, I'm going to get like a nice buzz. And then there was like, oh, I don't really know what happened, which is really scary when you start having kids. Or like, oh, did I say something offensive to someone? You just wake up in this like crippling fear and anxiety. And I was in this cycle for so long.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, things had gotten so bad that we were on this vacation. And I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking because like I just didn't want to deal with like all these demons that I had. And by demons, I mean like I had childhood stuff I hadn't worked through. I had stuff going on with my husband I didn't want to deal with. I had stuff going on with my kids I didn't want to deal with. I had stuff going on with my family I didn't want to deal with. Like I just had all this stuff. And you just keep adding. And the longer you don't deal with it, it just keeps building. And then you keep trying to shove like more alcohol on top of it and more escape. And when I say it, it wasn't just about the alcohol. Like I always had something planned. I was busy all the time. Like, oh, Friday night, let's invite friends over. We'll blah, 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 blah. Oh, Saturday, oh, we need to have a barbecue. We need to invite friends over, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Sunday, we need to have another barbecue. We need to invite friends over. Like, yes, I was being social, but it wasn't for good. I was being social and I told myself I was being social and fun and I'm just a social person. But looking back now from my clear head, oh, it was like full on escapism.
Yeah.
But society looks at it and like even you would be like, you just have so many friends and you're always just doing so many things. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like it just works out that way. But I was intentionally. Yes.
Well, and just let me know when I would say this, like, honest to God, you would have something planned every minute of the day. And I remember, like, again, coming from my very comparison self, I would be like, I have no friends if this is what life's supposed to be like. And so
Yeah.
I remember just like, she had something planned all of the time. And I also want to be very conscientious. Like, there is no judgment about anyone's drinking.
Oh,
Any of our friends listening, like, this isn't a you need to do this type thing. This isn't a alcohol's bad. Like,
no.
nothing. This is
This
Jen's
is
talking
my
about
journey.
her journey right now. So I just
Yes.
like, there's zero
Yes.
judgment.
Yes. Please don't turn us off because
Yeah.
you're feeling like we're like, it's the devil. No, no, no.
No,
But it
just
isn't for everyone.
that's
Yeah.
part of, yeah, it's part of your journey. And that's what you're talking about
Yes.
today.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Because I couldn't even imagine a life without alcohol.
yeah.
And I used to have so many internal dialogues like I'm going to drink less. I'm going to only have 2 drinks. And I mean I remember you and I would have these conversations
Yeah.
for years. I would tell you I'd make these like proclamations.
Declarations.
Speaking
Uh-huh.
yeah, proclamations, declamation, like all of it like I'm going to do this from now on and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to do this. And it just reached a point that I was like, am I an alcoholic? Like what? Like, I don't know. But, you know, we had always like grown up around functioning alcoholics. Like it's very normal and it was just part of our life. And again, it's fine if that's what you want to do. Like that's for you. But for me, it was horrible because I was using busyness, friendships, and alcohol to escape everything. And so it wasn't just the alcohol. It's just how I made it all work together.
Sure.
And so that's what I did. And I realized that I just was running constantly. So I had all my normal mommy duties, then my work duties, then, you know, and then I just filled it all with all of our downtime was just friends, drinking, escaping constantly. And it was this like cycle, but it was
And
normal.
and I guess my question for you is like, how are you feeling during that time? And you say you were like running from things like what were those internal thoughts? Were you just like, well, I just got to keep going? Were you actually acknowledging like you were running from things, or did you only
No,
really see that like you got to a point where you were just like, I can't live like this anymore, and then you started to dig? Like, what would that look like?
I just knew I had tons of anxiety.
Okay,
And
like
I had this like,
physically, mentally, like what did your anxiety look like?
I had all of it. I had
Okay,
physical, mental, all the things. I just had so much energy. And what I look back now, but at the time I'm like, I just want to be around friends and like this is living and this is what it means to be connected because we know I'm the connection queen. And this is what it means to like live, to have all these friends and to have all this fun all the time. And we were having fun. Like, listen, I love myself a good party. I love hanging out with people. Connection is my jam. Like these are things I like, but it was what I was doing and at the rate I was doing it. And it was also exhausting because we were constantly hosting as well.
yeah, you guys did host a lot.
Yeah, so there was all these other things that were going on. And I think to your point, I reached a point where I started breaking down when I would drink. And on this said vacation, I literally I broke wide open, as you would say. And I
Uh-huh.
just remember laying there. I was like hungover the next day and I had just been crying like the whole night. Like I couldn't even explain what it was about. Like there were so many things coming up when I broke wide open to these friends we were with. And I remember like laying there the next morning and I had so much shame and guilt about what had happened. And my husband was mad at me because I got, you know, too drunk with the kids. The kids were right. So now we're getting to an age that like the kids know what's going on, like
Yeah,
mom's acting weird. And even though I wasn't getting drunk, you know, that night in front of them per se, because like they had all gone to bed and I was up with my friends, that's how I would justify it. Like, well, I was out with my friend, you know, that was my
the
thing. And then
story.
I just, the story I told myself. And then I remember laying there and being like, I can't do this anymore. Like
Um,
something has to give. And I remember thinking to myself, what if I gave up alcohol for 100 days? What would my life look like? Like, one, it's going to prove am I or am I not an alcoholic, which was always constantly running in my background. Like, I would
sure.
never admit to it, but I always just kind of wondered.
Hmm.
So, it would answer that question. Two, it would allow me to actually see what was going on in my life. Like, what would it be like to live a life without any mind altering drug, I guess.
Yeah.
And 3, I need to start dealing with my crap. And I need to start dealing with my crap like sober. And so, like that day, I was like 100 days. And I got through my 100 days and I didn't do anything for 100 days. And I was like researching everything, like, you're going to feel this way and you're going to feel this way. And I'd always struggled, as y'all know, like with all these different like metabolism problems. And I was like, I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to be skinny and this is going to be amazing. So there were a lot of things that I was using to keep myself pumped up about it.
Sure.
But what I had no idea is when I hit that 100 days and I had lived like sober for 100 days, what I realized was my alcohol was mostly habits. It wasn't really addiction as much as it was a habit.
Sure.
So I had to change a ton of habits. The second thing I learned was like, oh, I can do hard things sober. And actually, I deal with it a lot better sober. Like, I have far less anxiety. I had far less, like, I didn't feel the need to escape. Like, I made a list of like acceptable escapisms when I needed it. Like, I could go take a bath. Like, if I felt like if I was having that feeling of like, I just want to escape, I just want to down a bottle of white wine and watch my shows and like be like, la, 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 la. Instead of that, it was like, I could go take a shower. I could read a book. I had a lot of things I could do in lieu of that. And I made that list because I realized that a lot of the things were habits. So what could I replace those habits with that were healthy?
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I could handle a lot more than I had given myself credit for. And I just felt so much better. And I finally was able to see and feel things I had never been able to feel before.
Such
Does
as.
so I was like, does that make sense? So like I was actually able to say like, okay, like my husband and I are struggling in these things. We're not dealing with it. We're just, we're just
Avoiding.
going round the outside,
Yeah.
and then, have our fun and we go do this thing. Right. And so it forced me to sit and be uncomfortable. Like, oh, we're kind of tiffing today. And normally it'd be like, it's fine. We're going to invite people over and like, everything's going to be fine,
Yeah.
And I didn't, we just had to both sit in the uncomfortableness of it. Like, oh, we're just gonna be in different rooms. Okay. But it forced us to be like, hey, we're spending the night in not spending the night, but like, we're spending our evening in
Yeah.
different rooms watching different TV. Like, oh, okay. So we had to like see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
discover it, before you can
there
shift it.
and I was gonna say, I think the 100 days, like, if just to sum it up, was like so many different discoveries.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't just looking for the next time that like I could have friends over and it would be acceptable to drink and have fun.
Yeah.
And escape.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you've kind of explained it as is it also opened you up to be able to be more open to all the other issues you were having at the time so that you could really truly start your healing journey, because that led you to realize like how much you were planning and how much, like you said, like all the different variations of escape that you were finding, and then empowered you to make different choices, like sit in there with your husband or,
Yeah.
And again, this is not like a PSA for our friends to stop drinking or do whatever you do. This is, again, part of what Jen's journey was. And that if you're interested in it, like, awesome, go for it.
Yeah. And it absolutely is 100% part of my healing journey. Like, because at the end of the 100 days, I was like, okay. So what I said to myself, because I'm not an all or nothing person. It's something that I can do. So I remember telling you, okay, I made it to my 100 days. Like, I've seen so many differences. Like, I want to continue on this. And what I had to come to realize was I wasn't going to be able to deal with my ish and all the things, because in 100 days you ain't coming up with all your ish. But like, I realized that like, in order to really deal with like the really big things going on in my life, like I needed to not drink for a while. And then it became like a decision of, I don't want to drink right now because I really want to get to a healing place where I don't need to drink, right? Like, I'm not using alcohol as my escapism. And that's what I really realized is it wasn't an addiction to alcohol for me. It was my escape. And so it's been 3 years, like I said, and I've gotten to a point where like, I can absolutely, like, I still enjoy wine and pretty much that's all I will drink these days, maybe an occasional margarita or whatever. But like, I have the glass of wine or I have the 2 glasses of wine that night. And like, That's it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I want more, because the more for me was, I don't want to feel. And so I want to feel how it feels to not feel. It gave me a really good insight also into like, and to addicts, or like, no matter what you're addicted to, or no matter what your vices, or no matter what your escapism, I have so much more empathy and I don't know what the right word, grace for people, because now I know that that's what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was using it as my escape. Also, I had to acknowledge that I was really busy. So I started to make myself sit home on Friday nights and not do stuff. And, I really changed my schedule. And then that led to people knowing I wasn't drinking. And then that made other people uncomfortable, because one of the things that happens should you decide to try to do this, friend, is that it shines a light on other people's stuff. And when they ask you why you're not drinking and you say, I'm going through a lot of personal stuff and it's just not a good idea for me to drink right now, they're like, well, are you never drinking again? Like, it's like, that's your first question. Are you never drinking again? I just told you I have such massive personal stuff going on that I'm not drinking. Like, the craziest things come out. And like, I would say that was also very enlightening, is everyone's reaction to you not drinking.
Yeah.
And so I used to be like, it was like, oh, well, what do I say? Right. Cause I'm in work situations, personal situations, like, and I would tell you about it. You're like, well, what do you say to people? Like, I remember you were like so fascinated. And I said, well, I just came up like, and then it's like, people are like, oh, okay. Like, oh, you have personal stuff going on,
Yeah.
right? Like, cause then it's not like, you don't have to say like, oh, I think I'm an alcoholic,
Yeah.
or I'm in AA, or, I'm on like, I had another friend that does this. She just told everyone, I'm on a medication that I can't drink, because it's like, people are so, I think, interested. I want to use the word interested, but what I did realize after a long time is like how we keep telling everyone, like, we're not saying you don't have to drink, but it does make you, I do want you to question why you're drinking, and like
Sure.
how you're drinking and how you're using the alcohol, and when you're using it, and what are you telling yourself when you drink it, because I do want people to question it, because it really can stop your healing journey. And that's why I felt compelled to talk about my alcohol journey on here. And now when I drink to enjoy the glass of wine, for real. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I get very nice glasses of wine, because I know I'm only having one or two. And so you can bet your sweet bippy, as our dad used to say, that I'm getting one that's going to taste delicious.
Yeah.
And then that's that. Like, we don't really keep it in the house. Like, it's just like, if I feel like it, and I don't say like, oh, I can't do this and I can only have one glass. I don't need to say that anymore, because I'm just using it for a totally different reason. And I'm so glad I did, because it has allowed me to continue to heal without putting up the roadblock, or the, I don't know what other word. I mean, you've been along with me for the journey. So like,
Yeah, I
do
think
you
the
have any?
roadblock is a good thing. And I think you just wrapped up what I think is a really good point, which is we're certainly not here telling you, like, don't do anything. It's just more of like, question it, just like we say everything else. Like, discover
Yeah.
what your thoughts are around alcohol or whatever other vice, over planning. If you're,
Yes.
like, if
Being
you're,
busy.
yeah, I mean, checklists, like, or me, I get really
Yes.
into reading and I will read like
Yeah.
a million books, which I know is so
Yes.
weird to so many people. But like,
But it's your
that's
escape, because you're escaping into a business, or like, I mean, to somebody else's life, like a
exactly.
alternate life. And
It's a
I
fantasy,
will
yes.
stay up.
Movies, like
Yeah.
shows, scrolling.
I stay up late watching television. That's always a sign to me that I'm escaping, because I stay up late. I sacrifice my sleep. Like, there's so many other things. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a drug. And I will say the other thing, part of this, even though we're talking about the alcohol, is if you keep hearing me, I kept saying I was busy. I was busy. I was busy. Like, I was planning stuff. I was adding to my already full plate. I wasn't being picky, choosy about what I did.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be busy.
Yeah. And so I think the question for our listener would be, what are you escaping? Like, what tools are you using right now? Like, if you looked at your week this week, what are you
Yeah.
using to escape? Whether that be alcohol or over planning or over reading, whatever it is,
Scrolling,
scrolling, watching shows, like whatever it is,
eating.
yeah,
Yep.
eating. Yep. Just take a
Hmm.
look at your week and just
Hmm.
discover it. Let's just start there. We're
Yes.
just going to discover it. So
Yes, I love it.
that's it for today.
I hope you learned something in my story.
We'll see you next time. Same place, same sisterhood. Bye.
Bye.